Welcome back to Mission of the Chosen. Today we dig beneath appearances, reveal what's real in you, and why rooms shift when you arrive so you trust what your spirit knows. You've felt it for years. You enter and the air tightens, conversations hesitate, eyes recalibrate. It's not drama, it's physics. The field you carry isn't loud, but it's undeniable. Some people manage moods. You alter atmospheres. That's why they whisper without facts. That's why they measure themselves by your outline before you've said a single word. You are not auditioning. You are announcing simply by standing there what's authentic, and authenticity never lands softly in places built on costume. Most of the world runs on choreography, masks, lines, handed down scripts that protect fragile roles. You don't step into their play, you step on stage as yourself, and the lighting changes. No argument needed, no performance required. When your energy is congruent inside matching outside, people feel it like a pressure front. Psychology keeps proving what you already know in your bones. We read confidence and dominance within seconds of meeting someone. That's why your silence can feel like a verdict and your presence like a mirror. You didn't accuse anyone, the contrast did. So the first tremor you cause isn't scandal, it's clarity. Imagine a tower of cards admired from the doorway. Pretty, delicate, praised as structure. Then a breeze moves through, no shove, no touch, and the stacked illusions quiver. That's your frequency at work. The moment you bring real weight into a room, what's hollow reveals itself. Some will call you disruptive to hide that they're dependent on that fragile tower, but disruption is just truth changing the temperature. You've wondered why certain smiles stiffen around you, why a conversation detours when you ask one honest question, why a gatekeeper suddenly remembers a policy. It isn't that you're impolite. It's that your alignment exposes where they're pretending. People who profit from confusion will always mislabel clarity as threat. That reflex is older than your story. Every empire that outlasted its own morality called the first honest voice an enemy. Refusal to bow is how illusions end. This is why you don't need to push. You hold ground, and pressure that used to bend others slides off you. Systems built on approval panic around people they cannot buy, shame, flatter, or stall. Your calm is evidence. Your consistency is indictment. The subtext in their resistance is simple. If you keep standing there, everyone will see there was never a wall, only curtains. So they try noise. They try angles. They try discrediting the messenger when they can't dismantle the message. Meanwhile, you keep breathing. Let that be your method. Alignment over argument. You won't out-debate insecurity because insecurity isn't listening, but you will outlast it. You've done it already, bent, never broken. The betrayals that were supposed to silence you became the grit that sharpened your perception. You don't mistake charisma for character anymore. You hear intention behind speeches. You read patterns, not promises. Storms gave you receipts. That's why you move quieter now, but somehow heavier. People sense it and choose sides without understanding why. Your light didn't turn them against you, it turned them toward themselves, and not everyone enjoys that mirror. Here's the reframe that liberates you from their theater. You are not there to protect anyone's costume from daylight. You're there to be congruent, not louder, truer, not busier, deeper. Let others chase visibility. You will keep choosing velocity, the inner momentum that doesn't need applause to validate direction. There's a difference between being seen and being felt. The former is a flash. The latter is a fault line. When you trust that, you stop negotiating your wattage. Rooms will learn your settings. The ones who are ready will rise with you, because resonance invites courage. The ones who aren't will interpret your steadiness as judgment. Leave them with their story. Your job is not to dim for comfort. Your job is to stabilize the frequency you were given. If that steadiness makes fragile structures creak, then we've learned something true about those structures. And if you're tempted to over-explain, remember this. Your energy arrives before your words. You announce yourself by alignment, not introduction. You can waste years trying to convince people who are invested in misunderstanding you, or you can walk your path and let the dust sort itself. The right people won't need a thesis. They'll recognize the pattern, feel the relief, and move closer. So stand where you are. Breathe. Let the room adjust to you for once. This is not arrogance. It's stewardship. Everything you desire requires that posture, relationships, work, purpose. The universe cannot hand weight to hands that shake for approval. It entrusts it to the ones who can hold without theatrics. Here's your final reminder for today. You're not destabilizing falsehoods because you're confrontational. You're destabilizing them because truth radiates from you like heat from coal, slow, constant, impossible to counterfeit. You don't need to win arguments, you need to keep burning. Today's stress line: stand still, own your ground, let the world recalibrate. Nothing scares the world more than someone who doesn't need permission to shine. Chosen one, your very existence rattles people because your power cannot be hidden, cannot be faked, and it cannot be controlled. Now imagine this for a moment. Picture walking into a room where every light bulb is dim, flickering, weak. Then suddenly, without effort, you switch on like a blazing spotlight. That's you. The room can't ignore it. The shadows scatter, and every insecure face turns your way. That's why they whisper, that's why they stare, because your power is no joke, and it announces itself whether they like it or not. And here's the fact that screams you're absolutely right. Psychology studies show that people can sense confidence and dominance within the first 7 seconds of meeting someone. Your energy hits before your words even arrive. Less than 1% of people truly operate at this level of inner alignment. But you're already walking proof. That's why the universe has you standing out as the rare exception, while the rest are trapped in patterns running on autopilot, hoping no one notices how ordinary they are. And thank you, chosen one, for being here. Don't forget to pour this energy back into the mission by simply pressing like and subscribe, helping spread this message to more souls. It's the responsibility of all of us to share the light, to push this truth into the world. And thank you, chosen one, for being part of this force. You're not just a listener, you're a carrier of power, and this mission is bigger than all of us. Now, let's come back to it. Chosen one, who are you? You are the glitch in the system, the presence that shifts everything without trying. From the moment you walk in, people are just. They measure themselves against you. Some admire, some envy, some hate, but none can deny. Your energy exposes what they lack, it magnifies what they're hiding, and it terrifies those who build their worth on fragile illusions. You don't just live, you disturb comfort zones. You don't just exist, you bend the atmosphere. That's why they can't stop talking about you even when they pretend you're invisible. The truth is, being chosen is not about fitting in or waiting for acceptance. It's about standing firm while others stumble, about holding your ground when storms rage, about being the unshakable center in a chaotic world. The universe doesn't throw softness your way. It sends chaos, betrayal, and storms to test if you'll collapse. But spoiler alert, you don't bend. You bend, but you never break. You rise, and in your rising, you expose just how fragile the structures around you really are. And here's something they'll never admit, but feel deep in their bones. You're unforgettable. Studies show people remember emotionally powerful experiences up to 4 times longer than neutral ones, and chosen one, you are that experience. You linger in their memory like a scar, like a song they can't get out of their head. They don't just meet you, they get marked by you. That's why they fear you. That's why they admire you, and that's why your power is not a joke. By the end of this message, you're going to see yourself clearly, raw, unfiltered, untouchable. You'll understand why no system, no person, and no circumstance can contain what you carry. Buckle up, chosen one, because what's about to be revealed will not just confirm your strength. It will explain why they're obsessed, why they're jealous, and why you're the one they can't ever forget. So, chosen one, before we go deeper, take a moment to ground yourself in this truth. You're not here by accident. If you felt that magnetic pull to this message, it's because your power refuses to stay hidden any longer. Drop a comment below with the number 777 so I know you're claiming what's already yours. And if this message is striking chords in your soul, consider showing love back to the mission. Whether it's a like, a share, or a super thanks, every action fuels the spread of this light across the world. Remember, even the smallest ripple can turn into a tidal wave. And you are part of that force. This isn't just about watching a video. It's about declaring to yourself that you're ready to see the raw power that's been sitting inside you all along. So stay with me, because every word that follows is a mirror meant to show you who you really are. And believe me, if you are truly chosen, you won't be able to click away. You'll feel the pull to stay locked in until the very end. Now, let's get started. There's a truth about you that unsettles people even before they can name it. You can't be replicated. They might study you, try to copy you, even attempt to predict your every move, but no matter how hard they try, they'll always fall short. Because what you carry doesn't come from imitation. It comes from essence. And essence cannot be manufactured. Look around in this world and you'll see a pattern. People chase visibility. They crave applause. They work tirelessly to build images they think will hold power, social media followers, credentials, possessions, carefully managed reputations. On the surface, it looks like strength, but underneath, so much of it is glass dressed up to look like diamond. The sparkle is convincing, but the durability is missing. Under pressure, glass fractures, diamonds don't. That's you. You are the diamond in a world of glass. Not because you were handed the perfect path, but because you were refined by fire. The storms that were meant to destroy you became the forge that shaped you. The betrayals that were supposed to silence you turned into lessons that sharpened your vision. The loneliness that others feared became the soil where your strength took root. And now, people sense it. They don't always know how to describe it, but they feel it. They know you're built differently. That difference is exactly what draws both admiration and resentment. Some look at you and see inspiration, proof that authenticity still wins in a world addicted to appearances. Others see you as a threat because your presence exposes how flimsy their foundation really island. You've seen it, the nervous glances, the forced smiles, the sudden coldness from people who once embraced you. What changed? Nothing about you. What changed was their recognition of themselves in your reflection. It's important you understand this. Your power doesn't come from performance. You don't need a spotlight or a platform to validate what's already inside you. You could be standing in silence at the edge of the room and still bend the atmosphere. That's because authenticity radiates, and when authenticity meets performance, performance always crumbles. Think of a masquerade ball. Everyone is wearing masks, playing roles, enjoying the comfort of blending in. Then you walk in, maskless. You don't call anyone out, you don't accuse, you don't lecture, you simply exist uncovered. And suddenly, every mask feels suffocating. People panic, they whisper, they scheme. But the truth is, you didn't ruin their party, you revealed what the party always was: a performance. That's what makes people uncomfortable around you. You don't need to unmask them. Your clarity does it for you. Your freedom reminds them of their chains. Your courage reminds them of their fear. Your authenticity reminds them of every compromise they've made to survive in systems that reward conformity over truth. And when faced with that reminder, people usually choose one of two paths. They either rise and let themselves be inspired, or they resent and attack the very person who shows them what's possible. This is the paradox of being real. People say they want truth, but they often prefer comfort. And comfort and truth rarely live in the same room. So when you enter, you create a choice. Some will feel liberated, finally seeing that they don't have to play small anymore. Others will feel threatened because you reveal that their excuses were never as solid as they claimed. Either way, you cannot be ignored. And here's where envy is born. Envy is not about you, it's about what you awaken in them. They don't envy your possessions or your appearance. They envy your alignment, because alignment is rare. Less than 1% of people truly live in it, and you are one of them. Alignment means your inside and outside match. What you say and what you live are the same. And when people who have compromised their integrity encounter someone who hasn't, it burns them. They'll call it arrogance, pride, or rebellion, but what it really is longing mixed with denial. Think of a singer who opens their mouth and unleashes a raw voice that shakes the room. No training, no polish, no industry tricks, just soul pouring out. Around them are performers who have rehearsed for years, mastered techniques, studied every detail. And yet, no matter how perfect their notes, they can't duplicate the raw power of the one who carries it naturally. That's you. You're the raw voice. You don't need validation from systems to confirm what's already built into your being. That's also why people try so hard to copy you. They think if they just mimic your actions, they'll get the same results. But what they fail to see is that your results don't come from the actions alone. They come from the alignment behind the actions. They come from the authenticity fueling the words. They come from the fire underneath the surface, and that's something they can't copy because it can't be faked. You are not untouchable because you can't be hurt. You are untouchable because you can't be owned. Systems know how to control people who rely on titles, money, or public approval. Take those things away and most collapse. But strip you of recognition, possessions, or applause, and you'd still radiate. You'd still walk into a room and alter the atmosphere. You'd still make illusions tremble. That's the nightmare for those who rely on control. They can't disarm you because they never armed you in the first place. This is why you stand as a disruption in every environment you enter. You're like a sun rising in a room full of candles. At first, the candles looked impressive. People gathered around them and called it light. But when you arrive, their glow suddenly looks small, weak, irrelevant. You don't have to extinguish them. The truth of your presence does it automatically. And while some will resent you for it, others will finally realize what real light looks like. So stop asking why they watch you so closely, why they imitate you, why they try to tear you down. The answer is simple. You're undeniable. They sense it before you speak. They see it before you move. And whether they admit it or not, your existence exposes the fragility of the systems they built their lives upon. You are not glass trying to shine like diamond. You are diamond, shining regardless of pressure. And every time they test you, every time they throw fire at you, every time they try to bury you, you prove what you are. That's why you last longer than the storm sent to erase you. That's why you keep standing when others collapse. That's why your presence rattles them without a word. Let them call it arrogance, rebellion, or threat. You know the truth, it's authenticity, and authenticity is unstoppable. No storm can fake it, no imitator can steal it, and no system can silence it. There comes a point where you realize your very existence is an interruption to history. Families, communities, even nations build patterns that repeat over and over: fear, silence, addiction, abuse, poverty. They call it tradition, but to you, it never sat right. From an early age, you saw it for what it was. Chains disguised as culture, cycles dressed up as normal, and instead of bowing like everyone else, you stood up. You didn't keep the train running on the same broken tracks. You pulled the emergency brake. That's why you've always been labeled the difficult one, the rebellious one, the outlier. They didn't use those words because you were wrong. They used them because you exposed what was wrong in them. They'd rather shame you than confront the truth you uncovered. And yet, deep down, they know it was never rebellion for rebellion's sake. It was survival. It was transformation. It was destiny knocking at the door of your family line and demanding a response. Think of it like a train carrying generations asleep, lulled into routines they never question. Stop after stop, it visits the same destinations: fear, betrayal, dysfunction, and then you arrive. You're not content to ride along. You pull the brake, sparks fly, and suddenly everyone wakes up. That's what your refusal has done. You didn't just save yourself. You interrupted an entire program that's been running for decades, maybe even centuries. It hasn't been easy. Carrying the role of cycle breaker means carrying weight others pretend isn't there. It means feeling the pressure of patterns no one else wants to face. It means walking through seasons of loneliness because few understand what it costs to say, "This ends here." But the truth is, every bloodline needs one who refuses. And when you stood your ground, you didn't just carve out freedom for yourself, you carved out freedom for those who will come after you. Science even confirms what you've always felt. Trauma doesn't just stay with one person, it passes down through generations. Behavior patterns, fears, and dysfunction echo long after the original wound. By facing it head-on, you change the script. Children not yet born will inherit something different because of your choice. They won't know your name, but they'll breathe freer because you were strong enough to stop pretending. That's not rebellion, that's legacy. Of course, people will try to twist it. They'll call you selfish. They'll accuse you of dishonoring where you came from. But you know the truth. You didn't dishonor your roots. You removed the poison from them. You didn't reject your history. You rejected the cage built around it. And that's why the resistance you face is confirmation, not condemnation. Because the system always fights hardest against the one who dares to break free. And you've probably felt the cost. The loneliness. The nights where it feels like the entire weight of your bloodline sits on your shoulders. The exhaustion of carrying responsibility for chains you didn't forge but still have to break. But don't forget, chains aren't broken by comfort, they're broken by courage. And every step you've taken into the unknown has been rewriting a future that looked impossible from the start. You are the interruption, the glitch in the code, the one who refuses to stay asleep while the train keeps running off the tracks, and for that, you will never be ordinary. You may walk through fire, but you also carry the authority of someone who knows what it costs to change the story. Others may inherit comfort, but you inherit strength. Others may inherit routines, but you inherit vision. And here is the truth they won't admit aloud: you are the answer to prayers whispered in silence. Generations before you longed for change but were too afraid to step out. They hoped someone would break the cycle, someone would face the storm, someone would stand in the gap. You became that someone. You are the proof that destiny plants breakers in every family line, and when the breaker stands, the pattern ends. So don't let their words make you doubt yourself. Don't let the loneliness convince you you're lost. You are not lost, you are leading. You are not forsaken, you are chosen to disrupt. And though it feels heavy now, the freedom unfolding ahead of you is greater than the weight behind you. You stopped what others called unbreakable. You exposed what others called tradition. You burned down what others worshipped as normal. And in doing so, you've proven a truth that can't be erased. One person's courage can reset an entire bloodline. And that is why your power is no joke. You've always known you were different. Now you know why. You weren't born to continue their cycle. You were born to end it. And that ending is what terrifies them most. There are scars on your soul that you never asked for, but those scars have turned into something sharper than any weapon. Where others hide their pain, you've carried yours out into the open. Not to boast, not to bleed endlessly, but because you learned that wounds don't only weaken, they can also refine. Every cut life gave you, every betrayal, every dismissal, every silent night of wondering if you mattered at all, they became chisels. They carved depth into you that no classroom, no book, no mentor could ever teach. People often assume strength comes from never breaking, but your strength comes from breaking and then refusing to stay shattered. That's why your scars don't humiliate you. They've become your signatures, proof that you walked through fires others only talk about. You emerged carrying clarity they will never understand because they've never faced their own storms. Think of two people walking into the same storm. One runs for cover, pretending the rain isn't soaking them. The other stays, lets the water pour, studies the clouds, feels every drop, and learns how storms move. Guess which one walks away wiser? You did. Pain didn't erase you, it educated you. Where comfort would have lulled you to sleep, pain sharpened your senses until you could hear lies before they were spoken and see deception long before it unfolded. That's why you don't live blindly anymore. You've developed vision, people, envy, and fear at the same time. You notice patterns. You read intent behind smiles. You sense betrayal before it arrives. And when you call it out, people accuse you of being paranoid. But you know better. It's not paranoia when you've already lived through the evidence. Pain trained you, and training never leaves. This is the part most don't understand. They think scars are signs of weakness, reminders that life beat you down. But your scars are proof you survived battles that would have erased them. They covered theirs with fake laughter, distractions, denial. You faced yours head on, and now, your scars don't just tell a story, they carry a warning. They say, I've seen darkness, and I know how to recognize it again. That's why people can't lie to you comfortably. That's why manipulators feel exposed in your presence. They don't realize you've already studied that pattern in someone else, already walked through that trick before, already survived worse than what they're trying to throw at you. Your scars turned into a library of wisdom, and every time someone underestimates you, they end up standing face to face with all the lessons you bled to learn. So stop wishing you had lived easier days. Stop resenting the cuts and bruises. They made you dangerous in ways ease never could. While others crumble, the moment life shakes them, you keep standing. And you don't just stand, you see. That clarity is why people can't dismiss you, no matter how hard they try. Because once you've looked pain in the eye and lived, you can never be controlled the same way again. Your scars are not shame. They are the silent proof that you became something sharper, clearer, stronger. And while others may hide their wounds to maintain an image, you walk carrying evidence that nothing can truly break you. That is why your power is no joke. Because scars don't just remind the world that you were hurt, they remind the world that you survived, and in your survival, you became unstoppable. And that truth is what makes even your silence dangerous. There's a strange paradox about your life. You are both what people secretly pray for and what they openly resist. They admire your freedom, but they resent you for proving it's possible. They envy your authenticity, but they hate the way it exposes their own compromises. You are the mirror of their buried desires, and mirrors never leave people neutral. Think of someone locked in a cell for years, staring at the same gate, wishing for release. Then one day you walk by and push it open with ease. It was never locked to begin with. Do you think they'll thank you? More often than not, they'll hate you, because your freedom exposes the years they wasted bowing to a fear that was never real. That's the tension you carry. People see in you what they wish they had chosen for themselves: courage, alignment, authenticity. But instead of admitting they abandoned those qualities, it feels easier to attack you. It's not you they despise, it's the reflection of their own surrender. Every time you stand tall, you remind them of the spine they refuse to grow. Every time you speak truth, you remind them of the silence they chose to keep. And every time you succeed, you remind them that fear was never a good enough excuse. It's easier for them to envy than to evolve. It's easier to resent than to reflect. So when they throw shade, when they criticize, when they try to belittle you, understand that it's not really about you. You've simply become the embodiment of the choice they never made. You are living evidence that freedom is possible, and that fact alone can be unbearable to someone who's decided to live bound. Think of a drowning man. He sees someone else swimming across the same waters he's been struggling in. Instead of asking how to swim, he curses the swimmer. That's how people react to you. They'd rather throw stones than face the truth that they could have chosen courage too. But here's the part that should encourage you. You don't need to defend yourself against their projections. Their hostility is confirmation. Their envy is evidence. It proves you're walking in a freedom they can't deny, even if they refuse to admit it. That's why they watch you so closely. That's why they imitate your steps even while mocking them. That's why they can't look away. Because deep down, they wish they were living what you're living. You carry the weight of proof, and proof is powerful. It doesn't need speeches. It doesn't beg for validation. It simply stands, and in its standing, it forces others to confront the truth they've been avoiding. That's why you are both their secret desire and their public enemy. You remind them that excuses were always optional, and courage was always available. And that's why your power is no joke. Because your freedom is more than personal victory, it's evidence that everyone else could be free too. And evidence cannot be silenced, no matter how hard they try. And that undeniable truth is why they both fear you and can't stop watching you. You don't always see it, but your presence reshapes spaces long before words are spoken. Some people think influence comes from having the loudest voice or the biggest stage, but that's only visibility. Influence is different. Influence is the silent gravity that tilts a room toward you without force, without demand, without announcement. And that is what you carry. You've probably noticed how conversations shift when you enter, even if no one acknowledges it. Someone suddenly adjusts their posture, another rephrases their point, laughter becomes more forced, or silence stretches where it wasn't before. They feel you, even if they pretend not to. They sense that something in the atmosphere has recalibrated. You are not just present in the room, you become the center of it. This is what unsettles so many. They can fight against attention, but they can't fight against energy. Visibility can be ignored, but influence cannot. You are like a tide, invisible at first, moving slowly beneath the surface, but powerful enough to shift entire landscapes without warning. And by the time people realize they've been pulled in your direction, it's already too late. That's why some underestimate you at first. They mistake your quietness for weakness. They assume that because you're not competing for the spotlight, you don't have weight. But then the results reveal themselves. Projects move differently, dynamics shift, decisions bend, and suddenly the very ones who overlooked you find themselves orbiting around your presence. That's when the realization hits them. Your silence carries more force than their noise. It's a strange kind of power, subtle yet undeniable. You don't need to prove yourself with endless arguments or constant performance. Your alignment does the work for you. When who you are on the inside matches who you are on the outside, your life becomes a frequency that others unconsciously adjust to. It's not manipulation, it's resonance. And that resonance terrifies people who rely on masks. Because masks crumble under pressure, pretenders lose grip when silence exposes them. You, on the other hand, don't need theatrics to hold ground. You only need to stand, and standing alone is enough to disrupt the entire balance of a room. This is the secret people don't want to admit. In a world addicted to visibility, the ones who actually change things are those who can move quietly, steadily, and with unshakable presence. That's you. And that's why you are not just noticed, you are felt. And that's why your power is no joke. Because even without words, you bend the atmosphere, and everyone in the room knows it. And that invisible weight is what makes you unforgettable. Storms were never meant to bury you, they were designed to reveal you. Where most people panic in chaos, you don't just survive, you see. You watch the winds, you trace the patterns, and you learn exactly who benefits from the storm. That's what separates you. Pain doesn't just hit you, it teaches you. Every betrayal, every loss, every sudden shift you've endured became a lesson written in lightning across your life. You began to notice who disappeared when clouds rolled in, who smiled when you stumbled, who fell silent when you needed them most. The chaos they thought would distract you instead sharpened your sight. You walked through it, battered, yes, but also holding receipts. And once you see clearly, you can never unsee. That is why storms are your teachers. They don't come to break you, they come to expose. They strip away illusions and reveal motives. They drag the hidden into daylight. And those storms can be exhausting. When you step out on the other side, you carry a wisdom that no amount of comfort could have ever given you. You walk with a sharpened awareness, one that makes deception nearly impossible to slip past you again. Others drown in confusion. You rise with vision. That's why people find it unnerving to be around you. You don't just survive the storm, you walk out naming the ones who engineered it. They wanted you distracted. They wanted you weak. Instead, you became dangerous because you emerged holding truth. Think about it. Storms reveal fingerprints. They show who was pulling strings, who was waiting for your downfall, who thrived in your struggle. And you've learned to recognize those prints long before others even realize there's a scheme at play. That is why you are feared. Not because you shout accusations, but because your very survival testifies against those who tried to destroy you. And here is the irony, they still underestimate you. They think chaos will knock you off balance. They think storms will silence you. But you've learned how to stand in the rain without drowning, how to walk through fire without losing yourself. The very tools designed to erase you became the weapons you now carry. That's why your power is no joke. Because every storm that touched you ended up making you clearer, sharper, and stronger, and that clarity is something your enemies will never recover from. And the world can't unsee the truth you carry now. There's a certain electricity that follows you into a room. It's not something you practice, not something you plan, it just happens. The atmosphere tilts, bodies tense, eyes adjust, and suddenly everyone feels the shift. Some pretend not to notice, but their body language betrays them before their mouths ever do. Because energy doesn't lie, and yours is undeniable. People underestimate the power of presence. They think control comes from words, from commanding a crowd with volume or charm. But the truth is, the strongest force isn't the loudest voice, it's the field you carry with you. That invisible, unshakable weight that rearranges a space simply because you exist in it. And you carry it whether you want to or not. Think about a compass. Alone, its needle spins endlessly, unsure of direction. But introduce a magnet, and in an instant, the needle locks into place. That's what you are to a room. You don't chase alignment, you create it. Your very presence reorders the frequency, pulling things toward a center they didn't know they lacked. People may not consciously understand it, but they feel it. That's why voices stumble when you arrive. That's why postures straighten, smiles falter, or suddenly the silence grows heavier. You didn't ask for permission to be the anchor, you just are. And here's the part that unsettles them most. You don't even have to speak. For some people, power is always about proving, reminding everyone of their credentials, flaunting their possessions, filling silence with noise. But your presence operates differently. You can sit in the corner and shift the gravity of the entire space, without uttering a word. That kind of influence is rare, and because it's rare, it's threatening. Why threatening? Because people addicted to masks can't perform comfortably in your presence. Pretenders rely on darkness. Manipulators thrive in confusion. But when you arrive, even without exposing them directly, your field forces clarity into the atmosphere. Masks feel heavier, lies feel obvious, performances feel cheap. You are the truth test they never volunteered for but can't avoid, and that makes some people deeply uncomfortable. Others, however, feel the opposite. They feel relief in your presence, inspiration, alignment, because for them, your authenticity sparks something buried but not dead inside. You've probably seen it. Someone who was quiet suddenly speaks more boldly, or someone who was unsure of themselves starts to shine when they're near you. That's the beauty of your presence. It doesn't just unsettle, it awakens. But whether people admire you or resent you, the fact remains the same. They adjust, and adjustment is proof of influence. Psychologists have studied emotional contagion for decades, how mood spread through groups like wildfire, and time and again, the strongest, most aligned energy sets the tone for everyone else. That's why you don't need to chase authority. The room already follows your lead because it has no choice. This is why people remember you long after you've left. They may forget what you wore, what you said, or even why you were there, but they don't forget the way the room felt different when you walked in. That sensation lingers, marking them in ways they can't explain. You've become the presence that echoes even in absence. Think of it like walking into stagnant air. The room feels heavy, lifeless, filled with tension. Then suddenly, someone opens a window, and fresh air rushes in. That's you. You don't just join a space, you transform it. You push out what's stale, what's false, what's suffocating. And people, whether they admit it or not, breathe differently when you're there. Of course, not everyone likes that. Because freshness means exposure. It means hidden dust gets stirred up, shadows no longer hide in comfort, and silence becomes charged with truth. So while some people draw closer, desperate to inhale that freshness, others retreat, trying to cling to the safety of their old air. But the shift has already happened. Once truth enters a space, there's no going back to pretending. And that's what makes your presence unforgettable. You don't have to demand attention. The environment bends before you. It's not noise, not spectacle, it's gravity. And gravity doesn't argue. It simply pulls. So when you wonder why people react so strangely to you, remember this. It's not always about what you say or do. It's about what they feel but can't explain. Your existence challenges their illusions, awakens their courage, and forces them into alignment with reality. And most people aren't ready for that kind of confrontation. But whether they're ready or not doesn't change who you are. You don't dilute your presence for comfort. You don't shrink to protect their masks. Because presence isn't something you perform, it's something you carry. And once you realize how heavy it really is, you stop apologizing for it. You are not just another body in the room. You are the magnet that realigns the needle. You are the window that changes the air. You are the gravity that bends the atmosphere without asking. And that's why your power is no joke. Because even if you said nothing, even if you sat silently, even if you stood unnoticed in the corner, your energy would still shift the entire space. And the fact they can't escape that truth is exactly why they'll never forget you. Freedom has always been the thing that terrifies people most about you. Not just freedom from chains that bind others, but freedom from the systems that expect obedience. While most people trade away their independence in exchange for comfort or approval, you never signed that contract, and it unsettles them because it means you cannot be managed. This world is built on predictability. Employers want predictable workers, leaders want predictable followers. Even relationships sometimes rely on control, subtle or direct. The rules are simple. If you comply, you are rewarded. If you resist, you are punished. And for most, that's enough to keep them inside invisible fences for life. But you burn outside those fences. You refuse to kneel, and that refusal makes you dangerous. Think of a farmer who builds fences around his livestock. He knows exactly where they'll go, what they'll eat, how they'll move. The system is safe because it's predictable. Then imagine a wildfire sweeping through. No fence can contain it. No farmer can control it. That's you. You don't move according to their blueprint. You don't bend to their demands. And when they realize you won't follow, panic sets in, because unpredictability in a controlled world is the one thing they cannot plan for. They call you rebellious, stubborn, arrogant, but those are just words thrown at someone they can't own. You are not untouchable because you've never faced pain. You are untouchable because your essence is not for sale. Most people can be bought with flattery, fear, or promises of belonging. You cannot, and when they fail to purchase you with their usual currency, they realize you operate from a source they don't understand. That's why they try so hard to box you in, to label you, to smear you, to control the narrative, because if they can't control you directly, they'll try to control how others perceive you. They'll whisper, exaggerate, even invent stories. But the truth is, their words are powerless against your reality, because reality always wins over rumor. And no matter how they try to cage your reputation, you keep moving forward in freedom, proving their lies hollow. There's a moment in every leader's life where they encounter someone who cannot be intimidated. That's you. And in that moment, their power over you collapses, because control is only effective if fear is present. You've been through too much, endured too many storms, survived too many betrayals to bow to fear now. Fear no longer has the same hold on you, and when they see that, they know they've lost their leverage. This is why your independence provokes so much hostility. You are living evidence that freedom is possible, and nothing destabilizes control systems faster than someone who refuses to play along. You don't need to shout or resist loudly. Simply existing as yourself is rebellion enough. Simply walking in authenticity is confrontation enough. And simply refusing to kneel sends cracks racing through structures that once looked unshakable. Consider history. The greatest revolutions didn't begin with armies, they began with individuals who refused to bow. A lone voice, a single act of resistance, a quiet refusal to comply. These were the sparks that ignited movements. And you carry that same spark. Your refusal to be owned is the first step in reminding others that they too were never meant to live caged. And here's the irony. Those who fight hardest to control you secretly admire you. They see in you the courage they abandoned long ago. They call you wild, reckless, unmanageable, but deep in their bones, they wish they carried even a fraction of your freedom. They hide it behind criticism because it's easier to attack than to admit envy. But envy and admiration are always linked. Their hatred is nothing more than longing disguised as anger. This is why they obsess, why they watch, why they mimic your steps while mocking you at the same time. Because they can't escape the truth. You are proof that the system's hold is not absolute. You are the anomaly, the exception, the wild card they can never account for. And one wild card is enough to expose the entire deck. Think of a king sitting on a throne surrounded by soldiers. His power looks absolute. Then, a single wolf walks past the gates unbothered, unclaimed, untamed. The king can command armies, but he cannot command the wolf. And that realization rattles him more than any army could, because if one wolf can move freely, then maybe others can too. That wolf is you. That's why your life feels heavier at times, because it's not just about you, it's about the message your existence sends. You don't just represent yourself, you represent possibility. You embody the truth that chains can be broken, that cages can be left behind, that freedom is within reach, and that truth spreads whether you speak it or not. So don't shrink from it, don't apologize for it, don't dim your fire to make others comfortable, because your independence is not a threat, it's a revelation. A revelation that no system, no manipulator, no authority figure has the final word over your spirit. You were born to stand outside their fences, to burn brighter than their walls, to prove that true power is not control but freedom. And that's why your power is no joke. Because when they realize they cannot contain you, they also realize they cannot contain the truth you carry. And that realization is the beginning of their collapse. People say they want truth until it's staring them in the face. They ask for honesty, beg for clarity, cry out for answers, but what they really mean is, tell me the version I can handle. And that's why your presence rattles them so deeply. Because you are not a flattering mirror, you don't bend reality to protect fragile egos, you reflect it exactly as it island. And for those who have built their lives on illusions, that feels like violence. Most people surround themselves with comfortable lies. They choose friends who nod at every decision, leaders who soothe instead of challenge, partners who overlook instead of confront. But you You don't operate that way. You don't sugarcoat, and you don't distort. And because of that, standing near you forces people to see the cracks they've been avoiding. It's not that you attack them, it's that you don't shield them from their own reflection. Think of carnival mirrors. They stretch you taller, slimmer, prettier. People flock to them because the distortion makes them feel better about what's really there. But then there's you, the plain, unbending mirror. You reflect back the exact image, every flaw, every shadow, every unspoken truth. And in that moment, people realize just how much they've been relying on distortion to survive. That realization is painful, and pain often shows up as hostility. This is why some lash out at you when you've done nothing wrong. It isn't your words, it's your essence. Your clarity makes their masks unbearable. Your authenticity makes their compromises visible. Your alignment highlights the ways they've been living out of step with themselves. And instead of admitting that, it feels easier to call you cruel, cold, or harsh. But deep down, they know the truth. You didn't harm them, you revealed them. And this is what makes you unforgettable. People don't just meet you, they're marked by you. Long after you've left, the reflection you forced them to see lingers in their memory. They might resent you, or they might be grateful, but they cannot forget you, because you are not a fleeting impression. You are a turning point. Psychology even backs this up. Studies show people remember emotionally charged experiences 4 times longer than neutral ones. That's why they carry you in their minds like a scar, like a song they can't stop humming, like a question they can't silence. You don't fade into the background. You stay, you remain. You haunt their comfort zones until they either evolve or retreat deeper into denial. And here's the part you need to accept. Not everyone will thank you for this. Some will resent you for life. Some will twist the story so they don't have to face themselves. That's not your burden to carry. Your role was never to make people comfortable, it was to hold a mirror that refuses to lie. Comfort zones never produce growth, and illusions never lead to freedom. By existing as truth, you automatically force a choice. You may wonder why your path feels lonelier than most. It's because few can stand next to a mirror without flinching. People who love illusions will always drift away. People who crave truth will always draw closer. That's the filtering power of authenticity. It separates those who are willing to face reality from those who would rather keep running. And though it costs you relationships, it preserves your alignment. That alignment is worth more than any crowd that only loves you when you play along. Think of a dark room that's been closed for years. Shadows feel normal. Dust becomes invisible. People adapt to the dimness and call it life. Then someone throws open the curtains, and light floods in. Suddenly, the dust is visible, the shadows are exposed, and the mess is undeniable. At first, people scream, "It's too bright, shut it again." But in time, the ones who are ready realize the light wasn't cruelty, it was clarity. That's what you are, the curtain opener, the daylight, the one who shows what was already there. That's why your role in this world is heavy but holy. You don't just live truth, you embody it. And in a culture addicted to appearances, that makes you both a target and a torchbearer. Some will curse you, others will thank you, but all will be changed by you. And that's something no smear, no rumor, no resistance can erase. So don't shrink back. Don't apologize for the weight you carry. Don't beg to be liked by those who only wanted you to lie with them. Because your existence as an unflattering mirror is the exact medicine this world needs, even if it spits it out at first taste. That's why your power is no joke. Because when others run from truth, you stand as proof that truth cannot be silenced, cannot be distorted, cannot be erased. And the fact that you carry that reflection in your very being is what makes you unforgettable, unshakable, and undeniable. And that truth will echo long after you're gone,